What up? T-Bob here.
And Jake as well.
And look at you. You done stumbled upon little OTB Saints, where we bring you all the latest black and gold coverage.
Who are the Saints going to draft? Who's going to be their quarterback? What does the salary cap look like? All that information and more.
Hope you enjoy it. Like, subscribe. Damn near guarantee that you are going to go tackle at 14. The conversation I wanted to have today was a hypothetical one. Let's say Ladd McConkey and Keon Coleman are available at 45. And I don't even know if the Saints go O-line wide receiver. How do we arrive here at thinking they would go O-line wide receiver? Is it just because the depth of the receiver class seems to represent so much value?
I think so. I think because you want to add one more receiver, there's great value in it. At 45, you can get somebody that in typical years would be a first rounder. Like if you get Keon Coleman or if you get Ladd McConkey or Ricky Pearsall, if you get one of those players at 45, you probably feel like you stole a player that would have gone 27 to 32, somewhere in that range. And so the value of it, you need to add one. And I think because of the depth of this class, like you want to take advantage of it.
So let's say you go wide receiver 45 then, which would be exciting, certainly. But then I just love the kind of the physical disparity between Coleman and McConkey. Both, like you said, borderline first-round talents in their own right, but in Keon Coleman, you have someone who, not the most impressive 40 time of 4.61, but I don't really care.
I think it's highly impressive. Just want to put that out there. I think 4.61 is really the speed that you need to succeed. But
and what did you run again?
4.61.
Oh, wow. Would you look at that?
Yeah.
But, I mean, Coleman's a giant, right? And he's great at contested catches. Return kicks, actually, surprisingly well, given that his speed is what it is. But when you look at where the Saints struggled at times last year, it took them a very long time to figure out the red zone. Keon Coleman feels like he could come in day one and become a huge red zone threat, as well as doing a lot of dirty work over the middle that, the Saints don't necessarily have that guy right now.
Know what's funny in that conversation? Sorry to cut you off. Go. But like you mentioned, like his size, and I agree with you. And they need somebody in that mold because Olave and Shaheed are not that. Now, A.T. Perry's got some of that, but
he's got some of that.
And A.T. Perry's a talented football player. We talked about him a ton when he got drafted. But I mean, we're talking about I think a different skill set, a different talent level than an A.T. Perry if you select somebody here at 45. But I mean, it's the Saints. Right, so I don't think that anybody should be shocked by anything they do on draft night. If they went receiver at 14 and they thought maybe they could get a tackle later. Now, it's not something I think they're going to do, but if they did, then I think it would be in the Brian Thomas Jr. mold. And it's funny because if he got selected to the Saints, there would be a portion of the fan base that would be so excited because you got an LSU player in the first round, a playmaker. But also, like, there would be a portion of the fan base that would be screaming, what the hell, because you need a tackle. So that would be an interesting pick if you go bigger body receiver, red zone target, a guy that led the NCAA in touchdowns last year.
It would just feel so crazy in terms of needs. Like the receiver, you're doing the final piece to the puzzle. You're trying to draft the cornerstone at tackle.
Right.
And the upside of hitting on a tackle is massive in so many ways, not just the short term where, like, we know Derek Carr is not good at dealing with pressure. He can be okay if you keep him clean, which is always, I mean, whatever. That's kind of a ridiculous thing to say. It's the NFL. But point being, you need someone just to help in the immediately in that regard. And then, look, you saw the value of hitting on a Ryan Ramczyk or hitting on a Teron Armstead. Like, you're allowed to just not think about that position for years. And, so, I mean, that would be crazy. I still think they got to go tackle. So, let's say at 45, you have Ladd. Okay, you have Keon Coleman, and then you have Ladd McConkey.
Yeah. Completely
different body types, different skill sets. But, I mean, would they be asked to be doing kind of the same thing since McConkey's work would come over the middle a lot? I mean, does it feel like a red zone threat? But also with somebody like McConkey, it's impossible to ignore like a Hunter Renfrow comp. Right? Where Derek Carr had so much success with him.
And there's no disrespect to Hunter Renfrow. He's a great player. Had a run where he was one of the best slots in the game. Ladd McConkey is way more of an athlete than Hunter Renfrow is.
So what do you think would be the better choice for this So
it's wild because I think Ladd McConkey's the better player, but I think Keon Coleman's
the better fit
for the Saints.
Yeah.
Because you're looking for a receiver that is different. Like, that's why we've talked about Leggett so much from South Carolina. Mm-hmm. Now, he doesn't have the height that Keon Coleman has, but he has a different skill set where He's going to be comped to Deebo Samuel. You're having a coordinator who just had a ton of success with a Deebo Samuel. So, like, that one makes sense to me as well.
Big,
I
strong.
don't know if he'll be there at 45, T, but if he's there at 39 and you've got all these fifth-round picks, do you throw in 2 of those and a third next year to maybe move up and select him? Maybe
I would hate to. I don't mind the fifths as much. I am like we kind of alluded to yesterday. I'm pretty much on a firm no future assets.
I'm with you. I'm right there with you. But it's the Saints. You know what they do.
Sure.
And,
for sure.
that wouldn't be as aggressive as moving from 14 to 5. If you're moving from 45 to 39, it's going to take some things, but you might here's a fifth and a third in next year's draft.
Yeah. I just again, I'm not wholly opposed to moving up with some of those fifths. A third would be at the absolute limit of
I'm with
what
you.
I would find palatable.
I agree.
You cannot touch next year's first or second round picks. But yeah, I get. Look, I do know this. If the Saints secretly in-house love Xavier Legette, then yeah, I mean they would absolutely do that, right? That's their kind of core draft belief. Though, as we discussed, the same way that they're having to change some of their cap management, I wonder if they're going to change some of their drafting philosophies as well, given that they seem to be thinking a bit more future-oriented. I do know this, as we were a couple of days away, that combination of tackle first, wide receiver second, 2 positions that have a ton of talent in this draft. I don't know how things are going to shake out. So this is, it's subject to change, but I'm falling more and more in love with that idea.
I am too, because it fits everything that you need. You feel like both positions are kind of in a unique situation this year with how much depth they have. Like, we've seen positions have a lot of depth, but tackle and receiver this year, it's some of the all-timers, at least the last decade or whatever. I've been covering the draft for 7 years, and this is the most that I've seen at 2 given positions, where I feel like at 45 you can get a starter at receiver. Right? If you're talking about a tackle, and y'all have heard me say this name 1,000 times, it's a funny name to say, Roger Rosengarten from Washington. Like, he's the 10th rated tackle in this draft, but I think he's a NFL starter. So it just kind of shows you like the depth of how much those 2 positions. Now, guard's light. Center's even lighter. So it's not across the board on the offensive line, but at the tackle where you have a need, it is incredibly deep. So you can go 14, you can go 45 if they do it right. Now, we still know they want to probably add an edge rusher, so that might throw a wrench into it at 45 if there's somebody there that they like.
Remember, that's where and how interconnected this all is. Like, that's where the Chase Young pick makes you maybe feel a bit better about that in terms of, okay, well, we get this 1-year rental from Young, and again, this is assuming that he'll be healthy and recovered and everything, right? But that him and Granderson and whatever Cam has left, like, yeah, maybe that's enough for this year, and then next year we can go get a premier pass rusher if we, if we still really have that need. So they could do it. They definitely could. And you never know how these things are going to break out. What if there's an insane run on tackles? What if there's an insane run on another position that then changes the math, or some like super highly touted guy falls to you, like when Marshawn Lattimore did at 13. So anything can happen, but on paper, I really do like the tackle wide receiver combo. Wow, just amazing black and gold takes right there, Jake.
I don't think I've ever heard any takes that are better than the 2 guys that just gave you that take.
And you can keep getting them by going ahead and liking, subscribing, ringing the bell to get notifications when we post. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next OTB Saints.